trained in diversity, equity and inclusion at a cost, can you believe it, of $8 billion a year to industry. But DEI policies, popularised in 2020 after the death of George Floyd, well, they're starting to be wound back as people get sick to death of being pitted against each other. Walmart is the latest corporation to announce they are completely abandoning DEI policies. And this is not a tweak, this is an absolute overhaul of all of their policies. Here's what they've announced.
So like, they're now going to scale back the DEI policies. I have no idea how much money they wasted on these stupid policies, DEI. This shouldn't even exist in the first place. I have no idea who suggested this to Walmart. They need to fire that guy. Right, they wasted so much money, but still, Walmart is rich as fuck.
That they will close down their Equity Racial Centre, which they established in 2020 at a cost of $100 million. That's gone. They've said they're no longer going to take into account the race.
I think that's chump change for Walmart, but still $100 million. In my lifetime, I don't think I can even earn $1 million. Then that is 100 million. Like, need me to live 100 lifetime.
Racial and gender mix of suppliers when ordering contracts. They've said they're no longer going to monitor LGBTQ+ inclusion in their workplace, but more than that, they're going to review the sponsorship of all Pride events, so they're not financially supporting anything that sexualizes children, which basically means they won't be supporting any Pride events. And on top of that, they're reviewing all of their products.
Because from all the Pride event I saw on the internet, the World Wide Web, they are all people revealing themselves like very, very little clothes and dancing in front of children. That's the main takeaway. They're dancing in front of children, like 5 years old, 6 years old. Like, they are going to tell these kids, oh no, you have the power to decide your own gender. Like, the fuck. I don't see this thing in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia. No one is doing this kind of stuff. I think maybe because you people in US, these people in US, they have nothing else better to do. Like in Southeast Asia, we have so much to do. We need to earn money. We have no time to do such stupid. Even the rich people, like all these people, like care about DEI is either too rich, too privileged. They don't know the nuance about all this stuff, or they have some agenda to push. That's why they come up with all these events, right? Come up with all this BLM. They earn money from BLM events. So that's that. Profit. Everything is about money.
And getting rid of anything that sexualizes or promotes trans and non-binary products to children. Now, bear in mind, Walmart employ 1.8 million Americans. So this is a big deal, but they're not the first company to do this. The Ford Motor Company, Lowe's, Boeing, Harley Davidson have all announced prior to Walmart's announcement that they too are abandoning DEI.
I thought Harley Davidson is doing very bad right now, then they still do DEI? Do they have a lot of money?
So Joe and Liz, here's my question. Yes. Is this because of Trump, or was this already happening and Trump kind of tapped into a groundswell that existed already and stronger, not just in America?
Why do they abandon the DEI after Trump won the election?
This was definitely already happening as these companies just came to bear with what they were actually doing and going, what are we getting out of this?
It's a coincidence?
Certainly not floating with our base. On top of the companies that you've already listed, there's John Deere, Tractor Supply, Molson Coors, Jack Daniels.
Oh, I need to stop the music behind you. What the fuck is that?
I think they've just realised we're spending all these money on this DEI initiatives. It's simply not floating with our customer base, and perhaps just the general question of what are we doing this anyway? Like John Deere is a tractor company. What interest do you have in DEI, in preaching to people, whether it be your employees or your clients, your customers, about this kind of thing? Also, what helps really get this on the nose.
Yeah, right. Like from what she said, right, it's feeling like so insane for this company, because what do you need DEI for? Like, you just need worker to do the job properly. You don't care their sex, you don't care they're male or female, you don't care they like dicks or not, right? You don't care they suck dicks or not. They just need to be very good at being a cog in the system. You don't care whether they have a dick out or not, right? You just want them to be a good worker. Yeah, DEI is just like a poison, and they have no idea who threw this poison into the pond. Like, I have no idea who threw the poison into the pond.
A new study by a place called Network Contagion Research Institute, NCRI, in America. They've done some study on these DEI practices, which are very prolific, not just in workplaces, but in schools, in universities, very much in America, and as we know, here in Australia as well. So here's the guy who headed up this study. His name is...
How do you know it's a him, Liz?
Finkelstein. He said what we did in this study was we took a lot of these ideas that were found to still be very prominent in a lot of these DEI lectures and interventions and training, and we said, well, how is this going to affect people? What we found is that when people are exposed to this ideology, what happens is they become hostile without any indication that anything racist actually happened. These findings from this research were so shocking and forceful that the authors automatically, they'd use 324 participants.
So DEI makes these people feel they're being discriminated when nothing happened. So this poison, this DEI is so powerful that you guys, when you are standing alone in a room, you feel you're being someone is being racist to you. Then you feel let me say this again. Okay, so when when you're looking at me, then you think I'm racist. I'm going to do something racist to you. Am I right? Then they will just try to attack me.
From this research was so shocking and forceful that the authors automatically...
And you combine this with you can have gun in US. How these two is going to mix together. You become hostile for no reason, and then you have a gun on your hand. Boom. Something bad is going to happen.
They'd use 324 participants in the original piece of work, in which they gave some people just a completely race-neutral piece of text on corn, of all topics, to read. Okay. And then they gave other participants these really race-baity articles by well-known Kendi and D'Angelo, who are really...
Okay, see here? They don't even need to make the material themselves. They can just pick from all the big media around in the US. They don't even need to make the racist article themselves. They just need to pick from random people from one of the media company.
Big on all things racism. So they got all these participants together, and then they gave them a completely race-neutral scenario in which a student is rejected from college, and they asked for these people's responses. Well, the research was absolutely comprehensive. The implications of these findings can simply not be downplayed. The research clearly showed that instead of achieving equality, dismantling systemic oppression, which is what all these DEI tick boxes are supposed to be doing, they may well, in fact, be deepening divisions and this cultural resentment between races. So well done to all the corporations spending $8 billion a year.
Okay. For just now the study, right, I feel there are a lot of similarities to what happened in Malaysia. Like for example, I talk about college, right? They talk about college, and then I will give an example of college in Malaysia. So Malaysia is a diverse. I'm not talking about the DEI thing, but Malaysia is a diverse country, right? We have the three major race: Malay, Chinese, and Indian. But more than 80% of the population is Malay. Right. So this created a weird relationship between all these races. Right. So for the local university in Malaysia, there are a lot of biases towards the Malay race. Right. So just hope no one from Malaysia is watching this, please. Don't report me to the government. There are a lot of biases towards the Malay. How do I know that? Because when I in my secondary 5, right? I think your country call secondary 5. In my country, I call it form 5. We have the big test that is like a national test, right? So the national test depends how good your grade is, how good your grades are. Then you can get to enter the local universities. From there, you can feel the intense biases towards the Malay. Because if they get 5A, they can enter the best local university in Malaysia. For Chinese, for Indian, even if you get 7A, you're not going to make it even to any local university in Malaysia. I feel it's already a norm in Malaysia, but still the DEI in US is a lot worse.
On this rubbish, you may well,
because this DEI thing also happened in the work environment, right? In the hiring process of in the industry. In Malaysia, yeah, there's still a little bit, but not so, not to the extent in US right now.
Will be undermining the very cause that you claim to be promoting. Now, this research was, like I say, so comprehensive, so decisive. The researchers couldn't believe it, and they said, okay, let's go again. We'll do the exact same thing, but with almost 3 times the amount of participants. So this time they got together just under 1,000 people, much bigger set of participants there. And they found exactly the same thing. They got exactly the same research data back. I think it's absolutely incredible as well that this research has been suppressed. The New York Times refused to touch it, despite the fact that they had over 20 times previously publicized the NCRI's findings on other research that they'd done. And Bloomberg just turned around and said, not on your life. The editor was like, I'm not touching this. We're all about DEI, so God forbid we let people know that, in fact, research shows this stuff ain't even working. Not only is it not working, it's undermining the very causes we think that we're achieving. It's just incredible, Joe. Nobody wants to admit the failure.
Yeah, like no one's going to admit this, because if you never admit, then as time passes, you did nothing wrong. Everyone will forget. Everyone will forgot about this. It's similar to why politicians never apologize. Because if they apologize, then they admit, then it means they admitted they were wrong. They are wrong. And that's the conclusion. They are wrong. But if they never apologize, then if they never apologize, then as time passes, people will just look back, right? They will look back and they will say, oh, he didn't apologize, so he didn't do nothing wrong. Then the narrative change.
It is incredible. I mean, I suppose what the report's trying to get at is that if you are told that racism is absolutely everywhere and that you've got to be hyper vigilant and look for it everywhere because it is everywhere and you just haven't been seeing it before, then obviously you're going to see it everywhere. And the problem with seeing it everywhere is then you miss it when it actually matters and when it's real. And so this is the whole problem with anything to do with identity politics or race-based politics. It doesn't address the disadvantage that someone may or may not be suffering because of their race. It just means that you see racism everywhere, and you are more likely to see all this racism and indeed experience all this racism if you are alive to, awake to, or if you will, woke to the racism, which means that it is usually the most overprivileged, tertiary educated, affluent, well-educated people, and I use that in air quotes, who feel the most racially oppressed, even though they are in fact the most privileged of their race, typically. So that is why it is completely perverse and backward, and it's why I think we should always see things in terms of disadvantage instead of seeing things in terms of racism. So, all right, who is worse off? Who is really suffering? Now, there's no question that, for example, there are Indigenous communities in Australia that are terribly disadvantaged and have horrible outcomes in terms of violence, substance abuse, health, educational outcomes, job opportunities, all that sort of stuff. But you focus on those disadvantages and you fix them rather than saying, okay, well, because this terrible disadvantage is happening in Wilcannia, we better make sure that we're not racist to, affluent Indigenous people who just happen to be Indigenous but living in, say, inner city Wallara or Glebe or Newtown or Northcote. And so the whole problem with seeing things through the lens of race, through the lens of colour, is it actually ignores disadvantage. And that is why it is so attractive to the new left.
Yeah, I think it's like too generalized about the condition of certain race. Like, if you're going to compare the Chinese in China and Chinese in US, are they even in the same, how would I say, condition? No, right? Because China is controlled by CCP, so the Chinese over there is basically always under surveillance. But Chinese in US, they are not under surveillance at all. There's no FBI looking at their ass, or someone is going to stalk them all the way home. Like, come on. I think he bring up a very good point. The condition is different in every country, and the DI thing is just trying to generalize everything so that they can take advantage of the vision or ideology they want to portray.
If you like, so the East and West Coast elites, because they can claim disadvantage, they can claim oppression. They can say, oh, I've been, hi, I'm from MSNBC and I'm discriminated against because despite the fact I earn $300,000 a year, I'm black. Whereas instead of ignoring the fact that there are heaps of disadvantaged people who are not getting a look in because rich, privileged elites are soaking up all the oppression for themselves because they're the ones who are alive to it and can see it everywhere. It's a sickness.
Oh. Yeah, DI not good. DI bad. Where do I... I'm just very happy that the DI thing is finally dying in US. So in future I can really travel to US and thinking that I'm very safe when I'm going to travel in US. I'm just very happy. That DI is finally going to be a thing of the past. Right. I hope it really is a thing of the past. Just there's no so extremist of the play the race card. Every states have different condition for the black can be oppressed even in one shop compared to another, right? Because of maybe the manager does not like black people. So black people is only oppressed in this shop but not the shop next to it. That's it. Unless the black is oppressed in the whole country, then that is a different story. That means the black is oppressed. But right now it's not. There's no evidence that prove the black is oppressed as systematically in US.